numbers, or two numbers, to be honest with
The only
you.
reason I did because everybody was calling me.
Well, I can't say I blame you.
It doesn't matter if you guys call me, but I was getting
He's done. We haven't got the results back from that last test. You know, they ain't gonna tell you nothing over the phone. You gotta go back to them and schedule an appointment. So. But she's trying to go about her business. She's doing her exercise class the last couple of weeks. And she started running again.
I saw her when I was going to see my daughter.
I haven't been asking a lot of questions. Letting her go do her thing.
Yeah, I had to change that's the city one. Is that a city phone? And the old number
That's a
was...
pretty good page somebody's come up with there with that crane holding the you up. That's a big old crane.
It was like weird stuff.
Have you heard any resistance about the since we moved to about the tax rate for post? Not a word. Well, a few dollars, yeah.
They was like,
Not even, ain't nobody said nothing one way or another to me.
you're going to meet us, Danny.
Did you hear anything?
It was Danny's from Danny. I know, this has got to be TNC.
Everybody's aware. I know the mayor's aware. Deborah's aware. So. Church in the country. The new church.
He's not going to let it go. He doesn't. He shouldn't.
He's so nice to the guy. Blessings.
I need a lot.
We need it.
Oh, he's so...
I don't want you to use up your blessings on us, but we need a lot. Your quota.
Yeah, he got that house for almost nothing. What did he say? I bet he didn't. Well, I'm talking straight.
Yeah.
Because he emailed me, so I just put my name on all that stuff back and forth. Actually, there is, but I talked to him.
If he files a phone bill,
You can't
do that? Because Eric told me he could.
Talk to the lawyer, and that would really kick him out if that
Yeah.
Yeah, there are those that said there was a spot, there was a...
Oh, he does. I thought he looked kind of trendy myself. That's kind of my style. Ray-Ban? No, they look like Ray-Ban.
See a trail, yeah.
That's why I said
I like it.
You see a trail coming in, trail going out.
Glasses on my life. I do like this.
You'll probably want that. How deep the stuff is penetrating through wood, essentially. Huh?
Literally, they use that. I didn't know that because they get back up before.
It was bad. It was real bad.
Well, when I grew up with hurricanes, Waffle House didn't exist in Florida and the Caribbean. My dad was part of the P3 Orion. He'd go out into the storms and everything to do the clumps of the winds and everything. So
But they say that is one of their indicators.
That has got to be weird.
Because apparently they pride themselves on, I think we're down there, we're going.
they got back up in Charleston really quick the next story. So after the flooding and the downwinds and the power lines and everything, and 80-mile-an-hour winds they got there, they were back up real quick.
Good.
That's good, because it's kind of a cheesy place, but man, I like their, they have the thing.
It's reliable.
Scrambled eggs, salted, hash browns, and any other stuff. It's a meal.
Mayor, it's 6
All right, it is time. Party's starting. No, I looked at the other room. It's 6 o'clock. All right. Let the record show that this meeting has been called to order at 6 o'clock. All council representatives are present. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation by Pastor, what's your name? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Okay, bow your heads, hold your hands, and let's pray. And before I begin praying too, I just want to say what an awesome event the Founders Day was, and what an awesome time I personally had, and Zion had, and hey, thumbs up, kudos. So let's pray. Gracious Lord, we come to you tonight in thanks and praise for everything that you have done for this city and for us personally, Lord. We just pray now that you would guide us now into the next 175 years in Castroville. Be with this council tonight as they make all the decisions that are first of all pleasing to you and for the benefit of the citizens of this community. And we pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, our one and only Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
Just gonna go ahead and write it down.
All right, we're going to citizen comments. Anyone that has any comments, please come to the microphone, state your name and your address.
Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee, yes, Robert Lee, 1314 Gentiles. My comments on the development agreement as I continue to look through that. The proposed agreement says the city, mayor and council, I'm sorry, says the city will repay approximately $35 million in developers' internal infrastructure costs plus all the external water and wastewater improvements, which costs are not yet known. These internal costs are normally borne by the home buyer in lot and home prices, not the city. And why not do a PID where the home buyer basically pays that over time and covers those infrastructure costs? I wonder if that's been looked at. Since I believe Mr. Benford is operating in good faith following requirements council set down, I believe you need to seriously rethink what you're asking for, because the rest of us that live here will most likely never be up in that thing or use it. I also believe Mr. Collins and his family are not going to build anything with their name on it that would be disagreeable to the city. He must cater to the home buyer, and with his entry roadway going from the first to the latter phases, everyone must pass through the less expensive homes to get to the more expensive ones. He'll do a good job, whether in the middle of the Medina County or in the city. All I see that has been presented on how this will work, or what you've asked for, is three-sided masonry and styles that blend in with Castroville and a few other things, certainly not $35 million worth. The last presentation laid out exactly how he makes this work for him. The existing and any other future residents not in the development must bear the majority of the general fund cost. Without us doing that, this will not work. I see that as completely unfair to the rest of us. From what I read and hear from the mayor, she also believes everyone should pay their way and not put financial burdens on others. If I had the opportunity to have those funds that they should be paying, I'd like to have new sewer lines in Old Castroville, new asphalt streets and sidewalks downtown, built out Houston Square, expanded City Hall and Library, Town Community Center, and other improvements to what is already here. While their new infrastructure is aging, our aging infrastructure can become new if we have those funds that should come into us. You see the budget as is right before you tonight. It's going up and up in the general fund areas with essentially the same population we've had. Think about hundreds and hundreds of new homes and people using the city facilities. Look at the projected income from the development, and I don't think you can get there from here. Unless you raise property taxes, increase utility rates and transfers, I have a hard time seeing how we can make these general fund expenditures for those of us that are here now to bring what we already have up to speed and service that thing as it ages. I'd like to see the figure what happens if we supply the external infrastructure to fulfill our CCN requirements, which I think we should do, and not have them come into the city. Eventually they will want to come into the city because of all the benefits of being here. Let's do the numbers and see. Also, what happens if we flip the percentages? We get 80, they get 20. Would they still refuse to build? Because they would be getting millions in infrastructure cost from us that they normally would pay. I'd like to know what the line is that you established and how you determined what it was as far as the percentages. If you want to give incentives, and there are places to do that, do it out of profit and not out of operating cost. Don't be in a rush. Talk to some other cities, get some ideas on what works for them. Let's let them and all the other developments pay their way from the first day. I talked to Kylie, Helotis, Cibolo, and Bernie, all those people at Administration Community Development, and asked them how they did their thing. None of them are doing the kind of things we're doing for those businesses that are and houses in and out of their city limits. So I just ask you to do a little bit more research and put a hard pencil to this and see if we can do something that's a little fairer to the rest of us. Thank you.
Anyone else? Sorry, taking minutes. No one else? All right, thank you. We're going to number 8. No, we're going to number 6, our second public hearing on the FY 2020 proposed tax rate of 0.507771. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:07. Would anyone like to make comments? No one? Nobody? All right, so we will close the public hearing at 6:00. I'll make it 6:08.
7.
Okay. 6:08. 6:08? All right, now we'll go to number 7, public hearing on the proposed 2019-2020 annual operating and capital budget. This hearing will open at 6:07, 6:08. Anyone? No comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Robert Lee, 1314 Gentiles. I've looked over the budget, and I'd say, all in all, it looks better than the one you did last year. A couple suggestions. For many years, there was a budget summary in the front that said, here are all the changes from last year, what we're doing, what it's going to cost, and how it benefits the city. So you could look at that and say, when I go through this document, here's what I'm going to see, and this explains what those changes in numbers or new numbers mean, because it really makes it a whole lot easier to digest. Also in the front, you have a summary of revenues, but you don't have a summary of expenses for all the different funds that we do. You'd have to go through each one of those and tally up all the numbers to find out what is actually being spent in utility or general fund or everything else. So that same small thing you have for, here's what's coming in, have the same totals for what's going out. That would be good. I had some questions, and I trust you do what most people do with these. If you see a variation from year to year that's very much, you say, what is that? Well, I didn't have the benefit of your hearing, so a couple things came up I'm not asking for any answers. I'm just saying they struck a note with me, and I only compared the 18 budget because 19 is still in progress, and who knows. On page 12, income from delinquent ad valorem taxes went from about $8,000 in 2018 to $75,000 projected next year, and I'm wondering how you do that. Okay. Park and Recreation holiday fees went up almost $4,000, which was pretty significant. I don't know how we're going to get those additional folks in there, maybe unless you raise the fees. Electric franchise fees went from $18,000 to $9,600. That's about a half of what they used to be in 2018, but I don't know that we lost any of those services, or maybe some new laws passed. I don't know. Contracted services almost doubled on page 17 from 2018. On page 18, repairs and maintenance on facilities went from $81,000 to $21,000, and that's all. We're talking general fund here. I think you're being optimistic on that one. Page 30, police, your spending increased almost $130,000. I know you've got to buy equipment and so forth, but you got the same number of officers. So as you look at new development and what it's going to take to support, you can see just within the existing population, a lot of costs can go up in order to address the needs without having a whole lot of new people. Municipal court, up $17,000. Kind of scratched my head on that one. Page 36, community development was up $61,000. I'm sure you're adding some personnel in that office, certainly needed. Page 39, streets up $120,000. I'd sure like to see some of that spent on some streets. IT, which really shocked me, was up $90,000. That's significant. Sorry to give you the page number on that one. But I don't know what you're doing, if you're all getting AI devices implanted or what. But under utilities, there's a dramatic drop in electric sales, and I'm wondering how that happened. So if you go to utilities and look at the revenue, and you look under electricity sales, it goes down quite a bit. Refuse looks like it's losing money. Not much, but it looks like it's losing money. And so you got to flip back and forth to check that. But every utility has an increase in cost of doing business just about every year. You need to keep up with that. Don't think you're doing anybody a favor by not passing on the costs we must pay to them. It's just good business to stay with that. Otherwise, you shock them when you decide to go up 10%. The airport, if I take out, and it looks like you did, depreciation, the numbers told me with a quick glance that there are more expenses than there is income. If that's the case, I think you need to balance those out so there is no disparity between what's coming in and what's going out. And Mr. Fitzgerald, I'm sure, probably has already answered that question for you. Anyway, all in all, I think you've done a pretty darn good job on this budget this year. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? We can't respond. Right. Because there are some things that they're not aware of. We discussed earlier about inflation. Okay. All right. I can't say anything. Anyone else? No? Thank you. Let it show that this hearing has closed at 6:13. All right, we're almost done. Consider, that's number 8, and take appropriate action on a resolution approving an agreement to use City of Castroville facility. And use of this facility means that we will authorize the use of the municipal pool for swimming programs provided by J&D Sports. So if everyone who has a packet, if you go to 8, and what you see in front of you is a resolution that was provided to us by our attorney. However, we're missing some information, and I think, Deborah, do we say this before, or
You can.
or let
I mean, you
Mr.
can.
Mr. Schroeder? Or let it-
You can go ahead and.
Okay,
let me know.
we are missing some information, like the EIN, the tax number, and some other things that we need before we can actually legally do the agreement. But there are options, which we discussed, I don't remember. Leroy?
Yeah, so we'll discuss that after, if you may, or if you allow me to go to introduce Darren up
Sure.
to come to the podium and just give a brief, I guess, presentation, an overview of what your thoughts are on the agreement, because I know you've been included in those emails, Darren, so thank you for that.
Could you tell us what J&D Sports is? What is J&D?
Derek, do you have your, the document on you for the,
Just the name.
okay.
Oh, it's
It's
just
J&D Sports.
J&D?
Right, it's just a nonprofit organization geared towards promoting swimming in
Okay. Thanks.
And I'm not sure, the mayor, I know you have met him, but this is Derek Howarth, who is the,
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was his name again? Sorry,
Derek.
on record?
I pronounced that wrong, didn't I? Howarth. Howarth. Howorth. Sorry.
So glad you came. Good. I need you.
And he's been really involved with this, as have some of the parents. Joseph Winkler here has been doing a lot of stuff for this, and there's several other families that are really leaning into this, and we've discussed a lot of that. So we've done a lot of work back and forth. Thank you, everybody, for all of your input, all of your questions, your concerns. I think we worked through a lot of that. Devin has put a lot of time into this, and so has Leroy, and the city attorney. We kind of went back and forth on a bunch of items to make sure that we were doing things properly, above board, so that it was nothing negative to the city. It was a positive to the city, a positive to the community, and something that J&D Sports could live with. So we are missing some details. The EIN number, he's got his documents with him right now. I know that there was some confusion about not being able to look that up, so I'm sure that we can get that part worked out. It is going under his nonprofit, and there's a lot of reasons for that. They're operating a program, they're going to be accepting additional donations, and they're really trying to do this for the betterment of the community, of the kids. So they'll work that through. Another detail that we're missing, we've covered portions of it, but the actual physical schedule, we have some general ideas on this, and Mr. Howarth is going to, did I pronounce that wrong again, right? Howarth, sorry. So Mr. Howarth has, he's got a tentative schedule, and the crux of it is making sure that we've got the school taken care of for the high school, for the swim team, making sure that he's got the club swim. So again, he's got some of those details that I think that we need to finalize in the contract, but I believe all of the other contract items are taken care of. And we're really looking at, it's basically, are you guys all, are you all familiar with kind of the seasons that we were talking about?
More or less.
So basically, the time that the pool is not currently open, that's when they would operate. So basically, it's Labor Day to, what is it? Sorry, the beginning of school to Labor Day, basically, they would operate during the weekdays. We stay open during the weekends like we normally do. After school opens, they would operate 7 days a week until basically Memorial Day. And these are rough times. I know that there's some different actual dates around there, but that's basically where it is. At that time, they go back to weekdays only, because we open up on the weekends from Memorial Day till the end of school. And then during the summer period, there's a few hours where we're currently closed, and they would operate their club swim during those times. And he's got kind of the details of that worked out, but none of that encroaches on what is currently being done. A few other details. So because it's taken us a long time to get this put together, we wanted to make sure everybody that was involved with it wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence, we didn't miss anything. The unfortunate thing about that is that it puts us too far into the swim season to pick up the right coaches, the right staff that he needs to staff this up. There's still some due diligence to be made on the heater itself. We want to make sure that what's being put in is supportable. So that detail still needs to be worked out. I think these are minor details that the contract is written so that it accommodates that. For the heating equipment, it has to be accepted by the city, and there's some other stipulations in there that I think you'll see protect us. And then so because of where we are with this, I think that it's probably best, we were talking to him about when he would actually want to start up with this. Could he implement this right away? Could he get the heater installed in time for winter? And I think that the best bet for us all is to allow him to start the season for us as a city to support the school on our own until it gets too cold for them to swim. And then at the end of the winter season, he'll start back up. In the meantime, they'll figure out exactly what that heater needs to look like. They'll get it approved by the city. That's going to take some time to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to make sure that what is installed isn't going to impact anything. And it gives him basically the summer season, which is the core of what it is, without the added expense of the heating and the payments on the heater itself. So it allows him to operate for almost an entire year before he starts taking on that additional burden of the heating during the winter months. So I think that we're okay with, well, I would recommend anyway that you would look at starting that at the end of winter when it gets warm enough for them to be able to use it. I think that covers all of the variables of the missing information.
I've got one question.
Yep.
I know the beginning of May, end of April is when we have like our organizations like Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts who have to have their swim tests that come out to the pool,
Yep.
have it done, and it's done on weekends and everything. Is there going to be flexibility built into the schedule to allow that to occur still?
Yeah, I believe so. What the contract states is that basically we figure out exactly what that schedule looks like, and so we would have the city would have keep out dates. So we want to be respectful that he's trying to run a program, but we also want to be respectful of the other programs that are already there. So sometimes it would be a matter of moving things around if they don't jive, but we don't want. This should be a benefit for the city and for the citizens, and it shouldn't encroach on anything that's being done. Would you agree?
Okay, that's.
Ms. Martinez, sorry. So when is that? The Boy Scouts and
The Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts every year, the end of April and beginning of May, coordinate with the pool to do their annual swim test to determine what kind of swim program they're allowed to participate in at their summer camps. And they coordinate with the pool manager every year.
So
They
we're good.
typically share the lanes already with the summer program a little bit too.
So it's,
So you're saying they coordinate the program to happen, not that
they coordinate
it
the
was
days.
happening already in April and May?
They coordinate what weekends, what Saturdays they're going to have with the pool lifeguard there to do their swim tests.
In
the pool.
April and May?
In April and May, on the weekends only. They don't do it during the week.
I can answer that one to that. So there'll be the swim team, the honors team going, and they'll close one lane with Boy Scouts.
Okay.
So they're both running at the same
Okay.
time.
I just don't want to detract from that because the scouts rely on us for them to do their summer programs.
Boy Scouts, so we did that, and he
Okay.
did honors, so he would jump out of the pool.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I think this is a great thing, but I don't want to take away from what we also already have on the tracks there.
And I believe that the J&D Sports has the same priorities.
You said you guys will be doing it on Saturdays?
I won't, but they will.
Oh, I'm sorry. You'll have the programs on Saturdays?
Yes.
Also?
Yes.
Okay.
And so in the contract, we have to figure out exactly what that looks like. There is a schedule that we would have for the year, and that would be something that they would propose, and we'd look at that against anything that's already scheduled and make sure that we work around that. So basically, we have an entire annual schedule that covers every single program that goes through that, which is also good because then you publish that schedule out, and we can bring more awareness to all of the programs by sharing out that entire schedule. And it'd be nice to get a very solid schedule, because it fluctuates kind of from year to year, and
Yeah.
people aren't always thrilled about that.
I agree, because I wasn't aware of that as if it matters, but, those are things that I think everyone should be aware of.
Leroy, I wanted to bring something, I was reading through this, and lines 24 and 25 on the first page sort of echo lines 27 and 28, but look like a bad copy and paste. I didn't know if there was something missing on 24 and 25, or if that was just a bad, because that sentence does not make any sense.
24 what?
24, lines 24 and 25 on the first page of the recitals.
It just means we don't use it.
Well, 27 and 28 accomplish that, 24 and 25, it's not really a complete sentence.
Tell Habib.
We'll definitely
Yeah.
let
They're
Habib know
trying
to
to-
find out. Yeah, this is the very latest agreement
Okay.
we got from him, but we'll definitely bring it to his
There was
attention.
it's just something non-congruent there.
I don't have it in front of me, I apologize. What is it, what does it say? Can you read the whole thing?
24 and 25 says licensee's use of facility will be at times and dates during the municipal pool seasons, and then there's a comma. City would otherwise close the facility to the public. 27 and 28 say licensee's use of the facility will be at times and dates. It may be the other way. 27, 28 may be the bad copy. Dates city would otherwise close the facility to the public, including fall and winter and spring. I'm just not sure that those.
It sounds like it's a typo that we
Yeah,
just have
it
to
might
get
be
fixed.
something.
You get the gist of it, though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I do. I think one of them was just a bad copy and paste.
You like
We
good,
didn't
precise
discuss
wording?
that, right?
Well,
I don't want to change it, and it was something we
Yeah.
had discussed.
No, I think that
The
that
detail.
accomplishes it. It just, the wording is messed up. It was probably just one of the, like, the corrections that didn't get fully
Yeah,
populated out.
Draft. And so we will send it back to Holly.
yeah, yeah. Just look at those two.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
I read it 2 or 3 times, I couldn't follow, so. That's all I saw. The rest of it, I haven't made it all the way through the 700 lines, but,
Yeah.
But the premise is okay with you, right?
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Any more
that's
we have
what
more
we discussed.
questions?
That was all I had.
I have some.
Yes, sir.
All along, I think it's been evident that everybody's been working very hard to try to get this done. And I like to, first of all, compliment everybody for trying.
Sure.
But I'm very, I feel let down because here we are now, we're at the point where we have to start acting, and we've got a little bit of thing in place so that the swimming team from the school can still swim, which is a good thing. But when the water temperature reaches 70 degrees, that's going to come to an end. And what are they going to do then? And do we have a plan for that? I mean, are we just cutting them off at the knees and they're out? Or are they going to go to another pool?
The district, they have been waiting, hoping that this would happen in time, but they have backup plans. It's not ideal. From what I understand, they're going to bus the kids to UTSA.
So they do have a backup plan that they can use?
Backup plan.
Okay. Second
It's
issue.
really great to have in place by next year that this is the last run.
Oh, I agree.
It's their second season. It's not ideal circumstances. Parents aren't too happy about it, but
Yeah, we're getting off to a bad start on a 5-year journey. Secondly, I need to have an understanding. All along, we've been talking about River City Aquatics, and now we're talking about J&B. Would somebody please explain the difference to me? Who are we talking about?
It's still the same three folks, myself included. The J&D Sports is a nonprofit arm of our group. The River City Athletics is the for-profit portion of our group.
Okay, so it's the same organization. We're not really changing horses, we're just changing names.
Correct.
Okay.
We were asked to make sure that we had a nonprofit version to make sure that we could work with the city, and so that's what we did.
It appears we've done a lot of work on the agreement, and it looks like I've read the agreement. I think it's thorough. There's some missing pieces, as has been described. But what I'm most concerned about is there's too much verbal stuff. I mean, you just gave us a verbal presentation. We don't have any detailed schedules. We don't have any fees. There's too much that's verbal. And before I'm ready to vote on an agreement, I need to hear the city lawyer say that he's happy, which he hasn't said yet. And secondly, we need to have everything in writing, everything. We can't have anything verbal, and I don't see a lot of things in writing. And I also would like to explore at some point when it's appropriate, if there's a smarter, more logical way to do this, something akin to what we did at the ball fields at the airport. I mean, this is the comparative thing. We need to look at it in the comparative light and see if we're doing things the way we did it with the other stuff. I want it to work. I'm not trying to throw down obstacles. I'll do everything I can do to help make it work, but we've got to get this stuff written down. And I don't think we're prepared to vote tonight. I'm not. That's all I have to say.
Why, could you give us your reasons again, why you're not ready to vote?
Because there's too much information missing that's not written down. He just regurgitated the whole briefing that he gave us. It's not in the agreement. There's all those details were missing. So I can't, I've got a constituent sitting out here that called me last night and asked me questions. I can't answer any of his questions based on what's in the agreement about fitness swimming. I think I know some of the answers, but I need to see an agreement that's comprehensive, that addresses all the parties that are using the pool, and that shows that we, the city, have done due diligence and that we've properly engaged in this agreement and that we're not legally hanging out.
Agreed. Can I address a couple of this? I didn't want to interrupt you.
Sure.
Great points, and I appreciate your level of detail. I appreciate your support for the overall. I understand what you're doing is not trying to stop this. You're trying to do it right, and I appreciate that. That's what I think we've all been trying to do. I believe that the verbal elements that we have right now are the schedule. It still needs to be worked out. There is, we do have the business name, so we don't have the schedule. We don't have the exact start time, but we have an idea of both. We don't have the exact heater, but we know basically what that is going to happen, and we've got the acceptance criteria to make that happen. I believe, so schedule, and pricing. So we haven't discussed fee schedules, right? So if we talk about, I think that these are details that would be worked through the contract. If you talk about what, like keep out zones for the schedule, for instance, if it doesn't encroach on something that we are currently doing, it would have to be a schedule that would be proposed as a part of the contract. So what we're looking at right now is to allow, we got chicken and egg problems all over the place because we've got to get certain things addressed before they can be approved, certain things that have to be approved before they can be addressed, like the heater. So we've got citizens that are willing to pony up a lot of money for this heater, but they want to make sure that before they actually go through all of the due diligence with that they know that there's an agreement in place. And so what I'm thinking would be a good idea is if we address those 4 items, and if there's any more, we make sure that we cover those, and we say this is acceptable as long as it's within these parameters, then it's acceptable. If it's outside of these parameters, then it comes back to council for a vote. And I think those parameters on the schedule are it can't encroach on existing programs and that there is flexibility in that program in case there's something else that comes up, and that wording should be in the contract. I believe that is covered. On the heater itself, there is an acceptance process that the city would have to accept it before it actually goes into commission, before it gets plugged in, before it gets turned on, and that's covered in the contract. On the fee schedule, that is, portions of the fee schedule are in the contract, but I think that if you take on the fee schedule, the things that we're concerned with is that I don't know. So that I'm kind of on the fence about that. Just personally, I'm kind of on the fence about that because they are going to put together a program that they're not going to overcharge people because they're not going to get anybody to come in, and they've got to operate within their budget, right? So they're not encroaching on any existing system. So it's not like any of the programs that we have right now would increase in cost no matter what. Those are all the same cost. Everything that's outside, it's all bonus stuff that they're doing, and then they kind of set this fee schedule for that. That would be a part of the schedule. The fee schedule would go with the actual schedule, and they would determine what their costs would be on all of those. And then what we do have in there is a clause that says if it raises over, I think it's at 5% a year, and it's basically a cost of living increase that we allow them. If it increases beyond that, it's got to come to City Council for approval. And so that...
It says, item 9.1, participation fees, says notwithstanding the foregoing fees may increase annually by up to 5% each year without city approval, but it still refers to an Exhibit D, and there's no Exhibit D in here for us.
Right, and that's... So the Exhibit D, I believe, is the schedule? Or is that the fee schedule?
That is the fee schedule.
Right. So we have the schedule.
It says it's attached, but there's no.
Right. That's one of the things that we're missing right now. The schedule, the fee schedule.
This is a draft. This is for us to review and
Right.
examine and critique as it is. I'm assuming that there's nothing we need to do tonight as in terms of taking appropriate action that is going to inhibit you or not, or enable you.
Well, my recommendation is to look at the contract and identify the items that, and I think it's those 4 items, and if there's more, then we need to identify those. Say these are the items that have to be addressed, and these are the parameters that need to be addressed in them.
They've already discussed it, what we need from you.
Well, part of it.
Yeah, so I don't know how the council can tell you what other things they need without the attorney's information, because this is dragging on. We know what we need to.
So we're trying to close this out so that they can finalize all of the due diligence.
And we know what we need, right?
Well,
You can tell them.
Well, no, part of it from our attorney, of course, needs all the information on the business.
Absolutely.
Now, the rest of it, as far as what he put together, the exhibits and such, that would be something y'all would point out on
Yeah.
what you need. But
That's the main part for us to proceed.
Okay.
Because this is, it's gone way too long. in my
Agreed.
opinion.
Well, there's a lot of details to be covered, and
Yeah, well-
like we said, there's a lot of chicken and eggs, so we're working through it quickly.
Yeah.
It's not as quickly as anybody wants, but it's better to do it methodically than necessarily quickly. We don't want it to drag on.
Have you sat with Tim, and you've given them our schedule, so they're able to do their schedule, right? That's easy.
Some more information, but in there it states it doesn't interfere with the city provided one, so we're just going off of last year's.
When he would be the one to tell you if it interfered or not.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. I think we can approach this 2 ways. One way is we can set those items that are missing and say these are the bounds that are acceptable. If these bounds are met on each one of these items,
Right.
then we approve it. If they are not, then it's got to come back before City Council for approval. We
Right.
can do it that way. Or we can say, all right, so these are the items, this is our guidance, go back and fix them and bring it to us as a whole. I'd recommend the first one, unless you're not comfortable with what's missing. If you're comfortable with what's missing and we can draw bounds around that, then let's approve it based on that so that they can move forward and do their due diligence. They know that they've got an approval and they can work fast and heavy to get that stuff done. And if anything changes that's outside of those parameters that you set,
And when do you expect that stuff, when would we be able to get it to the attorney, the things that he needs?
Is fees, detailed schedules.
Right.
And, for schedules, as far as I'm concerned, for all we make it work is that we can operate in the black. If we're operating in the red, then that's obviously places we don't want to do. We certainly understand that there's a, loss leader, if you will, in terms of probably having an open swim as an example. I totally would love to have an open swim and a lessons program going at the same time so it works. So we can make that possible.
So who would suffer,
and I think we're not
worst-case scenario, if this fee schedule, our schedule for times is not available right this minute?
I don't, as long as we understand that it can't be when the city is currently operating, and if there's a special event, then City Council can vote to override the existing schedule, which I'm sure that we would do respectfully to his program. So we have the ability to do that.
Right.
So the schedule, as long as it doesn't encroach on either one of those, I think that we can leave that right now open-ended so he can go and figure it out. And there's got to be some flexibility in there as well, because if they find out, like any kind of operation, if you find out, I've got a lot more interest in this, or this time works better, we don't want to hamstring him to say, this is exactly what you can do. But if we say that the overall schedule is outside of current working or current times.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a huge issue, but
One of the recommendations from the attorney was to make sure that we have everything that we needed to proceed with the agreement. So
Yeah.
these missing pieces, once we get them in, as soon as you can get them
At this
to
time,
us.
I don't see that we have everything we need. I mean, we've got,
So you'd rather go with the second, that's fine.
we've got all this, we're verbal. I'm tend to be in agreement with Councilman Dyer that I like everything there.
Now, I'm also with Councilman Dyer that I really would like to see this go forward. I wish it was already in place. I mean, I know y'all do too. But to me, there's just way too much stuff missing that you can say, well, I said this, and I meant that. We're talking.
Agreed.
If it's not, talking about our attorney, I heard an attorney one time tell me something is, if it's not in writing, it's just vapor. There's nothing there. And I need it to be there before I can go with it.
All right, so Deborah, tell me.
Well, the Habib
It says
had
action.
Well, Habib had already said that if you decided to do a motion, and it's in your packet, it would need to be approved upon his satisfaction of the nonprofit status and such as that. It's up to you if you want to table this, since if it can be completed by the next meeting, because generally when you table something, it comes back to the next meeting, or you can postpone it and bring it back at a future meeting.
But
It's up to y'all.
So we have the option of saying, okay, let's do it, and they have to bring us the missing information in accordance with our attorney, or it's null and void.
I would recommend that we get it all in hand, we give it to the attorney, then he embeds that into the agreement, then we bring it back to y'all for approval.
So it would be the 24th,
If we do
hopefully.
the
If they can.
24th, yes,
Like,
ma'am.
would-
I'd like to make a motion that we table this until the 24th, when we get all the information in the agreement that we need for the city to be satisfied.
If I can interject.
I've got a motion.
No problem. I just want to, before we,
It takes a second right now, though.
no problem. Before we close that conversation, I just want to nail out some stuff for them, so if we can do that after, that's fine. I just don't want it to close out before we can have that conversation.
You're
Well,
a
you have to
parliamentarian.
have a second, and then you can have more discussion before you vote.
I'll second the motion. Still like to have more discussion before we vote.
Okay. I apologize, I didn't mean to step on you there.
All right.
Okay, so I just wanted to be really clear so that we give them firm direction on exactly what they need to come back with. That is the schedule, and that would be the annual schedule that marries up with our schedule. So they'll have to coordinate with our folks to make sure they've got that right schedule. I'd like to leave them some leeway to make changes in that schedule, but if they say these are the days that we're going to be operating, these are the hours that we're going to be operating, I think we agree on that, and they'll give an initial schedule of all the different programs that they're going to give, but I think that we should allow them the ability inside of that agreed upon schedule to move that around.
I agree. I don't have a problem with saying we're going to start between the 1st and the 14th. I don't have, that, or whatever time frame that y'all think you need to make a decision in. I don't think it needs to say it's going to start on September the 3rd at 3:32 in the morning. I agree, I don't have a problem, but I think we need to have that in there, that you're going to start between this point A and point B, not where you're going to, well, we talked about it and we're going to start 2 months early.
Right.
Because that.
I think that's reasonable.
I'd like to give
If
everyone,
it's not there, then you have the opportunity to say that.
I'd like to give everyone a chance.
I know, but I was
Councilman
talking
Martinez?
and I think you're very rude to interrupt me. I don't mind
I'm
giving up
sorry,
the place.
Mr. Byers.
But
I'd like to give
I understand
All
that.
right, sir, go ahead.
I'm finished now, but I wish
Okay.
you would be a little more polite
Council-
about it.
All right, I promise I will be more polite next time. Councilman Martinez, woman, sorry.
If you read the materials, the agreement, the 4 areas we're looking for, the exhibit A, B, C, and D will cover everything.
Right.
But we don't have that.
No, I totally understand. I want to make sure that we give them the details that they,
We need those exhibits.
Right.
You showing me this in an agreement, if I don't have it, I can't support the agreement. I gotta have the complete agreement.
Right.
Also, under utilities, it says the city will be paying for the electricity, water, sewer utilities. And I saw our utilities did not go up. Is that gonna go up?
We'll have to go back and revisit that, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
But
that's gonna
Only
affect.
for the regular season.
Right, that's not
during the non-season, they pay everything.
That's not what this
But
says.
it says
Actually,
in
it should,
another place.
yeah, it says it in another place. So they pay for the gas year-round.
Yes.
They're setting up a separate electrical heater or electrical meter specifically, because the gas here still requires a little bit of electricity. It's a little bit overkill, but it keeps us nice, good separation.
Oh, I've got it right here. I've got the area open under utilities. It says utilities other than serving heater. Cost of providing electricity, water, and sewer utilities servicing the facility other than the heater shall be provided at city's expense.
Right.
Doesn't say anything about a time frame or anything like that. So are we covering that now? Because if so, that means our utilities for the pool's going to have to go up from what we have it at. Just wanting to put that out there because we're looking at the budget too.
I disagree. I think
Wait,
they're
can we
missing.
just, I'm sorry, I'd really like to go in order. Councilwoman Martinez, any more?
That's it.
Mr. Carey, Councilman Carey.
I know that you all have the best interests, and I think I can trust you, but we do have to do our due diligence, and I think having those schedules in our hands would be very helpful, so.
Again, I just want to give, on those 4 items, I want to give them the parameters and be very specific. And that's what I'm asking for from you right now. Let's talk about the schedule and what do they need to bring back for the schedule. Let's talk about the fee schedule and what exactly do we want them to bring back for the fee schedule. The heater, I think, is okay based on the approval of the city to install it. I don't know that any of us are qualified to make that decision until it actually comes before the city. And then the last, well, obviously the business name, there was one other thing, what did I miss? What was the other
only
exhibit?
thing was the nonprofit, and you said you've got that paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that one's clear. I think the heater's clear. I think that the 2 things that we're missing are the fee schedule and the schedule. Is there anything else? And I think that you have good direction on what to do with that? You understand that?
Yes, I think the difficult part about creating a daily schedule operating no data is.
Yeah, for no data, yeah.
So I have proposals, knowing that we could either expand or contract on that. I think that's, we have the flexibility within that.
I think it's acceptable operating hours.
All right,
Okay,
So,
so,
thank you, Mr. Councilman Meyer.
I think I've said one too. Yeah, I understand you needing flexibility in your schedule. I totally understand that. I don't think anybody here is wanting to pin you down to that, but I'd like to see that, and I'd like to see the fees too. What are you gonna charge? You know, we don't have nothing, I've never heard a fee. I'd like to have it in writing.
sure.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Another thing too, in regards to this electrical deal, it says on page 6 of paragraph, I guess that would be sentence 260. Electrical service to the heater shall have a separate meter, and the cost of the electricity shall be borne by the licensee. You know, so,
For the heater.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I think in the whole agreement, we were talking about there was gonna be so little of a utility increase, other than the heater, that city was gonna bear that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, our utility rates for the pool really don't fluctuate because of anything to do with the personnel or the patrons through the facilities.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Because we're
yes,
working the
we
budget.
have looked at that. We added in the agreement that the electric and the heater pertaining to the heating of the pool be separate. But other than that, we looked and based on our meter reads and items like that, we don't see too much of a fluctuation. Most of it's through wastewater, but it's very, very slim.
Okay, I'm just trying to cover our butts.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Any more?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I haven't,
Seriously?
serious.
I interrupted you. You had a question. Why
Well, I
don't you?
just, he covered
No,
it.
that was, we were dialoguing.
All right, so to summarize, Deborah, would you summarize what we've discussed here, just to be sure? So
Well-
what we're asking for,
My understanding is basically the exhibits that they're missing. It's the fee schedule, the swim schedule, and then also the nonprofit information. And we're gonna look at, on the, well, I'm not sure on the utilities, with it being 7.1, we're looking at the time frame
Okay, well, just,
for the off-season, if we need to flush that out, I guess.
And I think that becomes a part of the overall schedule, is when they would start.
And also in this agreement, it also is the date of the start time. We
Right.
need to figure out
That's-
when that would be.
And that, I think that would be a part of the overall schedule. I think that we should find some flexibility in that, but
well,
we
this
can't
is
do that.
according to the attorney,
Yep, agreed.
so.
Totally
that's
agree.
why I'd just like her to summarize it
Yep.
for you guys.
The main thing he was concerned with was the tax status, because
Right.
he was unable to find
Okay,
information.
yeah, we'll make sure that we get that nailed down.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Howard say that you don't have our schedule? You don't know what our, okay, all right, good. I thought I misunderstood you, Ed. Okay, great, thank you.
I think he was saying that he's, with any new program, they work it out, and
Right.
there's a lot of,
I just wanted to make sure he
tweaking
knew,
that
he
happens.
knew what our parameters are, and if that's the case,
Yeah,
that's fine.
and again, I'd
Thank
just
you.
like to add, the only issue that the attorney was very, felt very strongly about was not the schedule, the fees, that's you guys, but was the actual information for the company. That's what was the most important at this time.
perfect.
Do you have any more, Leroy?
I don't think so. I think we covered
Okay,
it all.
so,
So you have a
any
motion.
more discussion?
Well, there's a motion on the
We had a
floor.
motion and a second.
Would you repeat it, please?
Councilman Myers.
I made a motion to table the approval or the decision to the meeting of the 24th till we get all the
More information was provided.
the information needed.
And we have a second by
Second.
Mr. Dyer.
Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, great. Thank you.
Great interaction, thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, last one, David.
Sorry, Mayor. They need to be aware that we need this information probably at the latest by possibly tomorrow, if we could, or Friday at the latest, so we can send it over to
Darren. Darren, hello? Deborah has something to tell you real fast.
No, I was just going to say, the information that we need to get it on the 24th, with the way we set our agendas and such, probably need it if we can by latest Thursday at noon. Is that possible?
For us, the business bit is the most important.
Yeah, we are registered with the IRS, but we're not registered with the
Yeah.
state of Texas currently.
Okay, that would be something that, I don't know if you can email me that so we can send it to our attorney so that he can look at it, because that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, I need it by Friday morning at the
Doesn't need
latest.
to be set in stone yet.
Should he communicate that through you?
He can, if he can send it to me, I would send it on to Mr. Ercon.
The attorney was just verifying that, and it sounds like not all has gone through yet, so I'll give him that information.
That we really need that.
Yes.
We can push forward. Okay.
Counsel.
Now, we are going to talk about the RAMP grant, which is consider and take action on a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign documents related to the acceptance and execution of the 2020 Texas Department of Transportation Routine Airport Maintenance Program, RAMP grant, and designating the city administrator as the authorized representative. And David, our airport manager, will explain.
Good evening. The RAM Grant's a wonderful program offered by the State of Texas Department of Transportation. It's a 50-50 cost share up to $100,000. We put up the 50 and they put up the 50, and we continue to maintain our city-owned property and equipment to the best standards that we can possibly do within our budgeted timeframe. We continue to do this every year as far back as I can tell. I think it's 2012 is as far back as I've seen. But we continue to do this every year, and we continue to invest the money to make our facility better for the tenants that we house in city property and equipment. This year, we spent right at, I believe, 49 grand of the, we've gotten back 49 of the 50 grand. So we got a lot of improvement going in at the airport, and we'd like to continue that with your support.
Question?
I've got one question.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything different in this proposed agreement from what we've done in the past? This looks like it's the same agreement.
It's exactly the same.
Okay, nothing's changed.
No, sir.
Okay.
No questions?
Byers? Councilman Byers?
No.
Councilman Carey?
It's a good program, let's do it.
Okay. Councilman Martinez? All right, do I have,
I'd like to make a motion that we allow the mayor to go forward.
second?
Second.
All right, Carey seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
And do I have a motion?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Let the record show that we adjourned at 6:54.